Joseph Kyselak was an Austrian civil servant, traveller, mountaineer, writer, and a man apparently incapable of encountering an unmarked surface without considering how much better it might look with his name on it. During the 1820s, he travelled throughout the Austrian Empire, leaving Kyselak painted, scratched, or inscribed on rocks, ruins, bridges, buildings, and anything else likely to remain standing. More than a century before Kilroy was here, Kyselak had essentially invented the same idea, except his chosen canvas included the property of the Austrian Empire. Legend says his activities eventually came to the attention of the one property owner a vandal might prefer to avoid, the Emperor of Austria. Their famous encounter belongs to legend rather than documented history, but if it did happen, the conversation might have gone like this. The guards escorted Joseph Kyselak through a succession of imperial chambers polished to such perfection that he became acutely conscious of his boots upon the floor. They were good, sturdy boots that had carried him over mountain passes and muddy roads, and through places where a man considered himself fortunate if the ground beneath him was merely wet. Here, every dull scrape of leather seemed an offence against the palace. Kyselak shortened his stride. The guards noticed but said nothing. The Hofburg had been designed over centuries by men who understood the political value of making visitors feel small. Marble columns rose toward painted ceilings crowded with saints, emperors, clouds, victories, and allegorical women who appeared insufficiently dressed for Austrian weather. Gilded mouldings framed enormous mirrors. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, their countless prisms scattering the morning light across the walls and polished floors. Red velvet, polished walnut, marble, bronze and gold announced at every turn that this was not merely the residence of a man, it was the residence of a dynasty. Portraits of Habsburg ancestors watched Kyselak pass, their severe expressions suggesting that even from the grave they remained vigilant for breaches of imperial decorum. He resisted the temptation to inspect the frames too closely. At the far end of the audience chamber sat Emperor Francis I. Francis was 58 years old and had occupied one throne or another since before the young man approaching him had learned to walk. He had seen Europe torn apart by revolution and Napoleon. He had been Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire until there was no Holy Roman Empire left to be Emperor of. He had married 4 times, buried 3 wives, raised children, negotiated with kings, survived wars, surrendered territories, recovered territories, and spent much of his adult life attempting to prevent Europe from becoming interesting again. He valued order and continuity. Above all else, he valued obedience. Joseph Kyselak had somehow managed to offend all 3 with a paintbrush. Francis did not rise. He did not smile. He regarded Kyselak as one might regard mildew. The young man stopped at the prescribed distance and bowed. He was lean from walking, plainly dressed, and altogether unimpressive for someone who had managed to irritate the imperial government across several hundred miles. Francis found this disappointing. He had expected someone larger.
Kyselak,
Your Imperial Majesty.
you know why you are here?
Kyselak looked to his left, then slowly to his right, as though the answer might be posted somewhere in the room. A line of ministers and senior officials stood along one wall, splendidly dressed in dark coats heavy with braid, medals, ribbons, and decorations. Their expressions ranged from grave disapproval to poorly concealed curiosity. One elderly minister regarded Kyselak over the rim of his spectacles. Another stood rigidly with his hands clasped behind his back, looking determined to remain professionally uninvolved in whatever was about to happen. There were, Kyselak realized, a great many reasons why a man might be summoned here. He scratched his head. Then he remembered where he was, lowered his hand, and returned his attention to the Emperor. Francis was watching him with increasing impatience.
I have several theories.
Francis felt the first faint tightening beneath his left eye.
I possess only one.
The Emperor folded his hands. He had spent part of the previous evening deciding how to conduct this audience. Anger, he had concluded, would accomplish nothing. He would instead appeal to reason, civic duty, history, and respect for property. He would be calm. He would be paternal. He would make the young man understand.
Austria is not your notebook.
Francis paused, awaiting a response. Kyselak stared blankly.
It is not your diary.
He paused again in anticipation. Kyselak blinked.
No one has asked you to autograph the Empire.
Kyselak remained silent. He stood with his hands loosely at his sides, his eyes fixed upon the Emperor with an expression Francis found impossible to interpret. He appeared either to be listening with extraordinary attention or not listening at all. Francis studied him for a moment, trying to decide which. The ambiguity irritated him.
For 2 years, my officials have delivered reports from every province of this empire.
He glanced at a list before him.
Bridges, inns, castle walls, mountain passes, toll houses.
The Emperor caught his breath.
Chapel stones, guard towers, monuments, ruins, gateposts.
He looked squarely at Kyselak.
I open each report with a faint hope of reading about taxes, grain, or military preparedness. Instead, every report contains one word.
He leaned forward.
Kyselak.
His voice echoed through the chamber. The name returned faintly from the vaulted ceiling. The Emperor noticed Kyselak seemed almost pleased to hear his name uttered in the great room.
I travel to Graz. There's your name.
He lifted one report.
I inspect fortifications. There is your name.
He lifted another.
I receive foreign diplomats. One politely asks whether Kyselak is a new province.
The ministers standing along the walls studied the ceiling. Francis had been particularly annoyed by the diplomat. The man had asked the question with such perfect seriousness that Francis had spent several moments trying to determine whether some obscure Balkan territory had escaped his attention.
I sent engineers to survey a bridge. They returned with measurements, sketches, and your name painted upon the abutment.
The Emperor lifted another stack of papers.
A bishop complains that pilgrims ask whether Saint Kyselak is buried beneath his cathedral. A gamekeeper reports seeing Kyselak carved into a beech tree. My own nephew believes you are some sort of legendary giant marking his territory. A schoolmaster writes that children no longer practice the alphabet. They simply write Kyselak repeatedly until supper.
Francis placed the paper down with exaggerated care. That last one had disturbed him. Children imitated things. They became adults. Adults acquired paint. He inhaled slowly.
I have endured Napoleon.
A minister shifted his weight.
I have endured revolution.
Francis's jaw tightened at the word.
I have endured diplomats.
Several ministers looked down.
I now find myself at war with one exceedingly energetic pedestrian.
A cough escaped one of the chamberlains. The Emperor shot him a look. He continued.
Do you possess any notion, any fragment, however microscopic, of the labor required to preserve the monuments of this empire?
I imagine it takes quite a lot of work.
Indeed.
And my handwriting is excellent.
The Emperor blinked once. Had the young man just defended the quality of the vandalism? He looked at Kyselak more carefully. There was no smirk, no insolence, no trace of mockery. This was worse.
I was not complimenting you. I am rebuking you.
I understand.
Do you?
I believe so.
Francis felt the tightening beneath his eye again.
Splendid.
The Emperor spread his arms.
Explain yourself.
Kyselak considered.
Where should I begin?
The beginning would be traditional.
If your Majesty prefers it that way.
That answer bothered Francis for reasons he could not immediately articulate.
Well?
Kyselak appeared distracted as he looked momentarily toward the ceiling. Francis followed his gaze. The ceiling was magnificent. It was also blank in several large places. The Emperor immediately regretted noticing this.
I enjoy walking.
I had suspected.
I walk rather a lot.
So I hear.
When one walks great distances, one arrives in places.
Yes, and?
After arriving,
Kyselak paused. Francis leaned in, waiting.
one has arrived.
Francis pinched the bridge of his nose. He reminded himself that he was Emperor of Austria. He reminded himself that emperors did not strangle subjects during formal audiences. At least, not anymore.
I fail to detect the explanation.
I'm approaching it.
I wish you would approach more quickly.
When I arrive somewhere remarkable, I like to remember having been there.
Then purchase a diary.
I did.
Francis felt a flicker of triumph.
And?
I forgot where I put it.
The ministers shifted uneasily. Francis stared at him.
So instead you carve your name into castle walls.
It seemed more reliable.
You believed the castle was easier to find than your diary.
Precisely.
The emperor's mouth opened. Nothing emerged. He closed it. He had encountered this sensation only rarely in his political life. Diplomats evaded questions. Generals concealed failures. Ministers buried mistakes beneath paragraphs of administrative language. Kyselak did none of these things. He simply answered. That was proving far more difficult.
You are either astonishingly clever or catastrophically simple.
I've often wondered myself.
Francis leaned back. A new possibility occurred to him. Perhaps Kyselak was insane. The thought brought a moment of relief. Then Francis remembered that insane men were notoriously difficult to reason with. He changed tactics.
Did no one ever tell you this was improper?
Oh, yes.
And?
I thanked them.
You ignored them. Did you never ask permission?
I wasn't acquainted with the owners.
That would be because they had not invited you.
I assumed they were busy.
Kyselak!
Majesty.
Francis rose halfway from his chair, thought better of it, and settled again.
When you encounter a beautiful medieval tower,
Yes?
what thought enters your mind?
Where shall I sign?
The emperor closed his eyes. He saw darkness. It was peaceful there. He briefly considered remaining. One of the ministers silently crossed himself. Francis opened his eyes again.
Do paintings tempt you?
Only if there is space on the frame.
A collective gasp filled the chamber. Francis's head snapped toward Kyselak. For the first time, genuine alarm displaced irritation. He thought of the imperial galleries. He thought of Titian, of Dürer and Rubens. He thought of Kyselak wandering among them with a brush. The emperor rose. This time, he remained standing.
I have spent my reign attempting to preserve order.
A noble undertaking, Majesty.
You have spent yours writing your name.
Not exclusively, Majesty. There was a great deal of walking between them.
Francis turned away, composed himself, and turned back.
Do you seek fame?
I wouldn't object.
So this is vanity.
No.
What then?
Kyselak's expression changed. For the first time, the quick answers stopped. He glanced toward one of the tall windows. Beyond the glass lay Vienna beneath a pale afternoon sky. Church towers rose above tiled roofs. Smoke drifted from chimneys. Carriages moved along streets already old when Kyselak's grandparents were children.
I simply enjoy the thought that someone, years from now, might climb a lonely mountain, discover my name, and wonder who I was.
Francis studied him. For several seconds the irritation receded. There it was, not malice, not rebellion. Mortality. The young fool wanted to leave something behind. Francis understood the impulse better than he wished to admit. Emperors built monuments for much the same reason. They commissioned portraits. They stamped their faces upon coins. They attached their names to buildings, regiments, institutions, and decrees. The difference, Francis reminded himself, was that emperors were supposed to do it.
They are more likely to wonder who permitted you.
I found permission rather spoils the effect.
It has not.
I see.
Francis began pacing. His shoes made almost no sound upon the polished floor. Kyselak noticed this and became self-conscious about his boots again.
Tell me honestly, when you behold an untouched wall,
Yes?
do you feel compelled?
I suppose.
As though seized by an irresistible force?
Very much.
Francis nodded slowly.
You require treatment.
I usually require a ladder.
Kyselak!
Majesty?
The Emperor stopped walking. He turned his head very slowly.
Do you understand why this conversation exhausts me?
I assumed your Majesty was busy.
You are the reason.
That must be a relief.
A relief?
To have identified it.
Francis sighed so deeply it sounded ancestral. He returned to his throne and lowered himself into it. He was tired. Napoleon had been easier. Napoleon wanted Europe. Francis understood wanting Europe. Europe could be negotiated over. Europe could be divided. Europe could be conquered, surrendered, restored, and redrawn on maps. What did one do with an obtuse citizen?
I shall be perfectly clear.
I appreciate clarity, Majesty.
You will cease.
Cease?
You will stop writing your name.
Entirely?
Entirely.
Everywhere?
Especially everywhere.
Kyselak looked troubled. Francis recognized the expression and felt immediate dread.
What if I merely write very small?
No.
What if no one notices?
They always notice.
What if I abbreviate?
No.
My initials?
No.
A tasteful monogram?
No.
A discreet flourish?
No.
A tiny signature behind shrubbery?
No.
Charcoal washes off.
No.
Chalk?
No.
A pencil?
No.
My finger in dust?
No, 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 and no.
I have a very elegant finger.
I forbid the finger.
Silence descended over the hall. Several ministers were now staring at their shoes. Francis's face had reddened from the collar upward. A pulse beat visibly near his temple. Kyselak nodded solemnly.
I see.
Excellent.
I shall obey.
Francis froze. He had prepared himself for another objection. None came.
You will?
I give my word.
The Emperor searched Kyselak's face. Nothing. No qualification, no suppressed grin, no indication that a discussion of mud, snow, wet plaster, tree bark, or conveniently unattended livestock was about to begin. Francis finally relaxed.
I am delighted.
The Emperor smiled for the first time all morning. The audience concluded. Kyselak bowed, and Francis nodded graciously. The traveller turned toward the great carved doors. The guards opened them as Kyselak walked toward freedom. Francis watched him go and experienced the quiet satisfaction of a sovereign who had restored order through reason rather than force. Metternich would have been proud, he thought. Halfway across the chamber, Kyselak paused. Francis's satisfaction vanished before the man even turned around.
Majesty?
Yes?
I've just realized.
The Emperor's smile disappeared.
What?
I've never visited this palace before.
Francis felt something cold move through his stomach.
No.
Kyselak looked around.
It's magnificent.
No.
His eyes travelled over the marble columns. Francis followed them.
No.
The gilded mouldings.
No.
The enormous mirrors.
No.
The carved doors.
No.
The walnut panelling.
Kyselak.
I should like to remember it.
Kyselak.
I wonder whether there's a particularly suitable...
Kyselak. Walk.
I beg your pardon?
Walk.
To the door?
Beyond the door.
I see.
Continue walking.
How far?
Francis strode toward the nearest window and pointed beyond Vienna, beyond Austria, beyond every visible object in the world.
As far as Russia.
Kyselak considered the direction.
Very good, Majesty.
He bowed again and departed cheerfully. The great doors closed. The hall remained silent. Francis continued staring at the doors. Nobody moved. 10 seconds passed, then 20. The Emperor's breathing slowed. A terrible thought had entered his mind. It began as a suspicion and developed rapidly into certainty. He turned to his chief chamberlain.
Search every wall.
Yes, Your Majesty.
The furniture.
Yes, Your Majesty.
The curtains.
Yes, Your Majesty.
And the windows.
Yes!
The underside of the throne.
The chamberlain hesitated. Francis looked down at him.
The underside.
The chamberlain knelt immediately. Another minister began inspecting the window frames. 2 guards examined the doors. A secretary crouched beside a marble column. "What are you looking for?" asked another minister. The chamberlain did not look up. Hope. Francis stood in the middle of the sudden activity and surveyed the chamber, his palace, his furniture, his walls. Until 5 minutes earlier, he had regarded them as symbols of imperial permanence. Now, every flat surface looked vulnerable. He approached his writing desk. He stopped. The desk had been unattended during the audience. He stared at it. No, surely not. Kyselak had never been near it, had he? Francis tried to reconstruct the young man's movements. The entrance, the bow, the audience, the departure. No, impossible. Still, he opened the center drawer. Nothing. He opened the left drawer. Nothing. The right. Nothing. He exhaled. "Nothing, Your Majesty," the chamberlain reported. Francis straightened his coat.
Of course, nothing. The man is irritating, not supernatural.
No one said a word.
Return to your duties.
The ministers dispersed. The emperor sat. He picked up a report. It concerned grain prices in Lower Austria. For the first time in months, he found grain prices deeply comforting. Years later, Francis searched the desk for a document he had misplaced. He opened the center drawer and removed several papers. Something caught his eye. A small mark on the inner wooden panel. He leaned closer. His heart sank. There, in neat, unmistakable script, appeared a single word. Kyselak. Francis did not move. He stared at it. He closed the drawer and sat very still. He opened it again. The word remained. He closed it, opened it. Still there. Francis leaned back in his chair. He rang no servants. He issued no proclamations, ordered no investigations. There was no point. Somewhere in the empire, perhaps on a mountain, perhaps beside a ruined castle, perhaps standing before an innocent and defenseless wall, Joseph Kyselak was walking. Francis looked once more into the drawer. He shook his head.
I should have forbidden the desk.